do on your
Yeah,
own?
yeah. There's a lot of voiceovers that I do. A lot in the Core JKD videos that you'll see. I recently got this, so within the last month or so, you'll
Uh-huh.
hear a definite difference in the audio quality on voiceovers. But I'm also doing audiobooks, and I'm also doing some sound engineering for another audiobook author. So,
Okay.
that's
All
you
right.
got to have
So
the good equipment for it.
okay, you got to tell me this then. This is the first question I have for you.
Hmm.
Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
How did that guy, right?
Get some old and get some gray in his beard.
How did that guy on it's on my left,
Hmm.
become that guy on the right?
A lot of
You got to
pain.
tell me this. Yeah, tell me the
A lot of
story
pain.
of that transformation, please.
That's a good image though. That was prime Ming there on the with, I believe that was with Sifu Francis Fong.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so that's a farm boy. So that's a guy you saw that came off the farm. And so I've got 8 brothers and sisters, and so I was getting up at 4 in the morning, to get the cows, and then it was.
Hang
Yeah,
on a
go ahead.
second here. Hang on a
Hmm.
second here. So because when we were setting this up,
Hmm.
you told me you wake up at 4.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was going to ask you. So this is not you're not like a Jocko Willink follower. You've been doing this
Oh
before he
yeah.
popularized it.
I did this about from 7 years old on up. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. I was born into it. Yeah, every time before is my video actually working? Is that or
Wait,
is that frozen on mine?
it's frozen on mine too. It just froze on mine.
Yeah, because I have a pretty good stream coming in on mine.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
No.
All right, hang on one second. Let's see here.
Let me try a different resolution and see if that.
Yeah, we'll see. You got way more technological skill than I will ever have. I'm telling you.
Go back to that. Should be good.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, let me say hello to Russell, Carla, and Tanya. I think people like this 10 a.m. start time, boy.
It's pretty cool when you have people that can hang.
Of course, for Terry Valor over in the UK, it's let's see, it's going on 3 p.m. over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some people in Germany too who are if they're not working or on holiday.
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay, here we go. Yes, the camera, I'm switching. There we go.
Okay, so let's see. All right, you're back.
Give us a better. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm confused about something.
Mm-hmm.
Farm in Florida, farm in California, farm
Wisconsin,
where?
North Central Wisconsin.
Ah.
Yeah. So I was in. My record was 50 below temperature, so 80 below with the wind chill, and but yeah, we would normally. I mean, we have to get cows. I mean, we have to. They're in the barn at that temperature, but you have to go feed them, you have to go milk them, you have to do all that. So a lot of the times when it got that cold, our pipes would freeze from the well to the barn. So we had the house, which was normally warmer, had water. So we had to fill up, 5-gallon buckets and carry them down to the barn to feed water the cows. And, that's in 20 below weather and stuff like that. So whenever it got to that degree, but that was a lot of, that's where I get my grip strength. So that baling hay, you name it. I mean, wrestling against brothers.
There's no way that at that time you saw yourself where you are now.
No, I tend to be in the present. I tend to not future think too much. I tend to not dwell on the past, and so.
Where do you learn and adopt that philosophy from?
I don't know any particular individual. I think it was basically, and I write about it in my one other book. growing up and just watching people in church. It was one of those things where I would sit there, and in the pews, I'd be supposed to be, of course, listening to the priest, but a wandering child at,
who
6
has
years,
time
7
for
years
that?
old. Exactly. And so I'm, observing everybody. And it was one of those things that served me well, since. And, but I think I come from a good line of observers. But for me, it was basically just watching and observing everybody in their coats, and how some of them were nodding off and some of them were about to nod off, and
Right.
the other kids that were agitated, the other people who were rigid, and other people who were just like, just clearly thinking about something else. So it was that was probably where. So you got that silence of the church and just your mind.
Yeah.
And mine tends to be quite active. So
how does that serve you today, that ability or that observational ability?
Oh, it's really great, because I always go with the saying, you have 2 ears and one mouth, which I really enjoy, because you can listen twice as much as you speak, right? So when I watch, you also have 2 eyes, so I add that to the equation. But when I'm watching my students, it's not only just watching, but you're picking up all of the sensory data. So my ears are picking up, whether or not they're hitting the beat right on striking, or if their feet are shuffling, things like that. You'll pick up all that information, and you observe from the ground up, because gravity holds us to the ground. That's the first line of our contact, our first line of movement towards somebody else. So if there's errors, it's usually found first there. It's like the gas tank in a car. If the car is not starting, you don't tear apart the engine. You go check to see if it's got gas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the same thing here. You look at how their feet are, how their base is, how they move to support the upper body mechanics. And so if you can sit back and just observe and let all that information come to you, it'll rise to the surface as to what's wrong and why a person isn't able to punch as hard, or isn't intercepting that strike as well, or isn't picking up the cues in the environment that they need to pick up.
All right. Well, for everybody who is joining us on this, we are 8 hours earlier than we usually broadcast. My dialogue partner today is Shaun, Ming, Rudie. Hey, I messed up. I misspelt your name.
I saw that. Yeah.
You did, right? Yeah. And then I was like, I cannot let this slip. If I do not change this and redo everything, this guy is not going to be impressed.
That's right. It'd be like, oh man, it's over, Dwight.
I know. So I ran into Ming probably when he was a wee lad.
Long time ago. But yeah.
It's over 20 something years ago in Tampa, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. We'll.
Oh no, you disappeared. There we go.
But okay, so the names.
Yeah.
Ming, give us the story behind that, and then give us the story of Core JKD, the reason behind that name as well.
So Ming was, if you're a follower of the old Buster Keaton, Flash Gordon, I mean, we're talking, the 30s, the 50s, that type of era. There's a character in there called Ming the Merciless. Okay, so that was something that somebody had called me during training, because I was very efficient at what I did, and there was no emotional response to it. There wasn't a lot of, as one of my other students will say, no sorry. It's like I don't think to say I'm sorry. I'm going on to the next subject or whatever else. But it was Being the Merciless was because I was very diligent in executing what I needed to execute at that time, without concern for it's the early days, we get our energy, our spit and vinegar, and we're just, going as hard as we can to do the best we can in the environment. And so that stuck. That was that was a big, it was more than one person who called me, said, okay, Ming, so that was there.
Okay. And here was I thinking it had its origins in something Chinese.
No.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at Ming the Merciless on the Flash shows, he does appear to have an Asian influence. So
Okay. Core
yeah.
JKD. Why that name?
Core JKD was brought about because the Inasana lineage. We have the disparate elements. We have your Savat, the Muay Thai, the Pencak Silat, you have the Wing Chun, you have the Jun Fan, you have all of those. That's what I trained in as well. And so we had separate classes for each one of those. And then Friday nights would generally be our sparring night. And I loved sparring. And I just wanted to, I lived for a Friday. And because I would train literally, there were times I'd be training just 7 days a week. And I trained with people after work who were also taking classes there, but also just friends. It's a lifelong thing. I've been doing that forever. And so what I found out was after a while, our instructor, the sparring class kept dwindling. The people that were, they were all, gung-ho for it and really wanted to participate until they got hit. And until, it became a painful experience. Right. And, we were wearing boxing gloves, we were wearing shin guards, we were kicking, punching, we were doing everything possible. And we'd get in there and I'd be blasting some of the Wing Chun stuff because when I started in the Wing Chun. So I'd be going Wing Chun heavy against the Muay Thai guys and stuff like that. And they were just blown away because they didn't know how to deal with it because theirs is great at distance. You could kick the hell out of you if you can stay in kicking range. But the Wing Chun, I was right there in trapping range. I was clinch. I loved clinch and grappling. So, it's Eric Paulson, CSW later on. But that all filtered into the functional elements that I saw missing being trained in the separate arts by themselves. And as you know, different arts will stay islands unto themselves. They are great against their own people and their own art, generally. Mm-hmm. When they branch out and go into, which is what the UFC and so forth showcased to some degree when they were first doing it, bare-fisted and just slamming against each other to see who would rise to the top. It opened up a lot of avenues that showed, well, you're all missing something here in the ground game. You're all missing here something in the clinch to ground game. Right. And I saw that not being trained on something that Bruce Lee was developing. Bruce Lee himself was developing something that made him the most efficient functional fighter, period, against whatever type of foe that came to him. Mm-hmm. And so I saw that as that's where it's got to be. And it's got to be realistic. It's got to be to where you are getting hit, you experience what a hit is like. Because you'll watch people right now and you'll see them train and you'll see they've actually never been hit in their life. And they'll come off as experts and things like that. But not only have they not been hit in their life, but they've not been choked out. They've not been picked up and body slammed. They've not been kicked by 2-3 people at once while one's choking them, the whole bit. So that's where I had to create Core JKD. So I want to get back to the core elements that I felt Bruce Lee was actually bringing to the fore in his own training, where he wanted to go with it. And which was, and you saw him. I mean, he put the headgear on, he sparred, he did everything that was what we're trying to emulate today. We branched it out and we worked with a lot more of the weapons. We worked more in environments against concrete, on sand. We work on, in small rooms. We do elevators, downstairs. We do.
I noticed that because I'm confused. As to where you guys train, because variously it looks like it's inside a martial arts school, it's at a park, it's on the beach, it's in a gym, right? Yeah. There's the thing with the girl on the monkey bar, and then there's going up the wall, and then there's the rope stuff. How many locations do you guys have?
Well, in Florida, we happen to have, as you know, there's a lot of great parks. So But we also have a lot of people's backyards, and we also have a lot of people's houses, and invariably these are students who are okay with us trashing the house for a little while, or at least just this part of your house. You know,
Right.
we put all the pillows up against the wall. We make sure that if there's any damage done, it's to us and not the wall. You know, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's basically anywhere we see a place that demands functional training, because we never know where we're going to be attacked ever. And we want to be prepared for having been there, having done that.
Mhm.
And so you'll see stuff where we're on hills, and it's not just hills, but it's after a rain. You'll see the leaves covering the hill. You'll see sand under the leaves, and then grass under that, barely. And so trying to fight two people with a knife going up that hill is a huge you start understanding where sunlight matters, where it's blinding you. It matters whether you're level to them on the hill or whether you're above them, and what angles are preferred. There's a lot of information you glean from doing it, and doing it with headgear, doing it with some hits to the body. You have to have safety is first. I mean, we just don't throw people into we don't just it scares everybody away. The type of thing that I'm talking about. Yeah,
that's interesting. That's interesting, because have you ever heard Burt Richardson tell the story?
I love Burt Richardson. Yeah,
he tells a story about Richard Bustillo. Says, okay, get some boxing gloves. You're in the sparring class next week or whatever, right? Yeah. And the class starts with like 40 guys in it, and then within a couple of weeks, it's down to like 10.
Yeah.
You said something similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is it? Why is it? Have we been doing something wrong all along, that the numbers in sparring, everybody has a story where the numbers dwindle?
Yeah. Sparring is like, people come to self-defense for different reasons. Some love the social aspect. Some love the image that they are training. Some love the drills. Some of them love the, I've had one person come up and she said, and this was in an interview before training, I love kata. I could do kata, just hours every day. And I'm like, I said, yeah, we're not for you. We're not for you. We don't do that. They love that configured steps and dance moves, or something that is easily relatable to just memorized movements.
Right.
When everybody who knows in fights and who trains in sparring realistically, it is a freaking messy ordeal where very basic elements, those base against resistance, your base against your environment, your auditory and visual cues, what you're picking up and how you can adapt and find opportunities in that, are the elements that will best serve you. Then it's timing, and on top of that, and then it's, can I and have I worked against two resisting opponents,
right,
who have an intent. So that is something that people don't see the relationship. You saw, you showed my pictures earlier before from that one to the next. It's very similar to, people will not see that this pre-programmed dancing and so forth, will equate to realistic, messy, sloppy fighting. And when they find out that that's what fighting is really about, you see that guy with the gloves on, he's been through a if I could swear, it'd be an F-load worth of body beating. And right there, he is now taking another beating, with beast training. So, and this is all conditioning training that we'll sometimes do prior to the actual training to fatigue the body and the muscles. And so they get this concept, and a lot of it is the media, a lot of it is the movies that we see them performing these actions, and all of a sudden, with nary a breath taken, they've got 3 people taken out already. And, they're just posing at that point and just waiting for their next, photo op. But the nastiness of it, the grittiness of it. I mean, when I did a lot of my early training, I would work against guys who were in Hapkido, and we'd spar on weekends. And we would literally, there'd be this sliver of a mat he had, but we'd end up on the concrete all the time. And we'd have, we'd just be bloody red with all these, cuts and scrapes from the concrete, because he was also good in judo. So it'd be like the throws.
Didn't you guys invest in June Ree's little safety punch and safety kick? We did that in Barbados. God damn. Man.
Yeah. It's when you get to that point. So different types of one of the things, one of the qualities that people will say when they train with any of my students outside, and when we go to seminar training and so forth, they'll say, man, all your people's, their base is just like, it is so incredible, and you can move against them, and regardless, and they're like a mountain that you can't move, or they're like the wind that moves around you. And it's just adaptive, and it's that's something that's been a compliment that I'm actually proud of, that a lot of my students have exhibited that and have picked that up. But that's how I train it. Right. And if you have that base, that works overall in whatever environment, especially if you're training it in all those environments.
I am very interested in how all of that came to be. So I was on the website. It says you started your Jeet Kune Do training in '79 with your older brother.
Yeah.
Now, where was this? Now he went out. He
on
was
the farm. Yeah. So
so this was back in Wisconsin, because he had gone out to LA.
Yeah, he had been in the military. So on his many journeys, off in the military, he fought guys in Wing Chun, because he was a heavy sparring guy too. So he'd do a lot with the boxers, and he'd spar a lot with Wing Chun guys. So from Germany, things like that. He had a lot of experience in that. So he knew, and he had done Taekwondo, in Wisconsin, so because there wasn't a lot of opportunities, and military brought him a whole world of experience. And so he would always be sending from different locations, from Japan, China, and things like that, all these full bleed color magazines of Bruce Lee. It was just nothing but, we like him, and we understand his value to the whole world and martial arts world specifically, but they worshipped him. And some still do, to the point where these were some of the most, and I wish I had these magazines, still to this day, but that's where I was immersed, from, 8, 9, 10 years old and up. He would be sending magazines and things like that. And anything I could catch on Bruce Lee would be filtered through there. So when he went out and trained, I think it was the Kali Academy or something like that is what it was called, with Dan
if it was 79. Yeah.
And so he trained with Richard Bastillo. So, and I hadn't heard of him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I trained," and he had his signature from him and stuff like that. So on some of his paperwork, and so we started training, because he brought the Bruce Lee gloves with the fingers, and he had standard boxing gloves. He had headgear, and he brought all that with, and I was basically his punching bag for a very long time. but we would, it's my introduction to it was just heavy sparring.
What's he doing now? What's that brother doing now?
He's up there in Wisconsin doing something. We've got, I don't think he's involved in the martial arts anymore, and that's been for a number of years. But some of us, it's a lifestyle. It's just what we do. So we're, pulling the casket closed on our own, that sort of thing.
Okay, so that was 79, and up until when?
Well, my formal training was in the Innocent lineage at Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do concepts, and that's with Cedar Lewis, and that's probably where we met at some point. And
but that was 97?
97, about there, yeah. So in between, from all the sparring training that I would do with him, and we'd be doing things. We'd be kicking tires because on the farm we got plenty of spare tires. So
it's probably the best place,
I'm
man.
telling you,
Right? Do you know the guys from Texas, Jeet Kune Do, Clay and Beverly Pratka?
I've heard of them. I haven't.
Because they have a ranch.
Do they?
Yeah.
Man, say, yeah. I mean, you got that. For one, you've got the open air. I mean, nothing works better than just being in nature. So that's why a lot of our training in the parks and so forth, we get.
I envy that, man. I let me tell you, I could spend hours on your website because it's
there's a lot. Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff. I'm very envious of you and the way you have put all this stuff together.
Cool.
I have to tell you.
Yeah.
I have to tell you. It's a pleasure when I see. No, seriously, when I see colleagues who, and this is the thing, right? I mean, so it's like the guys in New York, Alex Chan and Luigi Cuellar. I envy them because they have a gorgeous, second floor school and what have you, 5 rooms and whatever. And then there's you, right? At the other end of the spectrum, but still highly organized.
Yeah.
You might not consider yourself professional, but
I do in different areas. Yeah.
Right. Or you might not consider yourself commercial, but I consider you to be highly professional. Highly professional. The look and one thing that I notice is that Core JKD seems to have a lot of proprietary language.
Define that. So how do you mean?
So for example, the whole ABC thing.
Yeah.
Right? The airway, breathing, circulation thing. Yeah. Right? Now the reason why I noticed that is because at one point I tried to explain to people, look at how much proprietary language Bruce Lee put into JKD.
Yeah.
Ranges of combat.
Absolutely.
Ways of attack.
Yep.
Right? And then all the breakdowns. Nobody was doing that before. Yeah. And I think it's something that a lot of people in JKD gloss over. They don't realize that, that Bruce Lee was, for lack of a different expression, manufacturing language to explain what he was doing. And I noticed that you do that as well.
Yeah. There are as you well know, there are a ton. And what Mr. Woods here is referring to is my cjkdmembers.com site. And I give him access to that. And so he's seeing a lot of what I put out on there. And which isn't generally seen. So you go to corejkd.com, you won't see what he's talking about. This is a really pretty heavily loaded website with a lot of information. I mean, I've been told it's an overwhelming amount of information because there's just so much. Yeah. So a lot of the things that I try to get to is being clear and specific. When we look at things like sapu, or we look at words like that, we look at things that are translated from other languages. I mean, it means sweep. I mean, you'll find other languages that might mean, a hay throw, or it might mean, tickle you under the arm, but they'll give it some name that is just, it sounds really cool and it's whatever else, but it literally is just describing the action. Right. And perhaps in a particular place in the combat or the movement. And so when I do something like airway, breathing, and circulation, ABC, we're talking about more from the medical community, because I've had a lot of people that I've taught who were doctors, nurses, that sort of thing, where we had a lot of similarities with how we need to stop the functioning of a body in order to be able to, in their case, operate on it, and for our case, to survive and get away, that sort of thing. So airway, breathing, and circulation came as one of those, because those are kind of orders of priority. When you look at airway, everybody has to breathe. It's not a, you take that out, doesn't matter. The rest of it's gone. Circulation was knife flow. So breathing and knife flow. So each one of those is compounds the other, but also is synergistic to the other.
Mhm.
If you do not have these elements, those are sometimes the very first things you look at, especially life and death situations, that you need to address as early as possible in order to survive best. So, or to not, like I tell people when we go into knife training, you want to be less dead than the other person. So, but that's what it comes down to.
Where this is gonna sound odd. Where did you go to school?
Auburndale High School. Yeah, I'm an autodidact, so I do a lot of supplemental education on my own. And I have I've got a lot of mentors who are highly educated, who I've learned from just in my life, just wise people who you can't get that type of thing from a college education.
Right.
And you'll get people who are just have such a keen intellect, and they may have gone into to university for one particular thing, but their mind wasn't able to be fully explored or fully utilized in the university system. So they go out and spread it to everybody they talk to. And I just happen to be on the receiving end of some really good people like that who are. And if you do what I said earlier in the podcast, which is listen, you pick up a lot. And so that's part of this. Is the most I talk generally.
Yeah, well, see, I think it's because, while you're out there doing while people are talking.
Yeah.
And of course, I appear to be guilty of that because I'm talking to people every week, right? I got 2 weekly podcasts.
This is valuable. Yeah. So what you're doing is necessary because it brings to light some of the minds that are out there.
Yeah.
And some of the minds that are really who've been there and done that, who can give some information that other people just wouldn't normally have. And so it's a very good thing you're doing.
See, what you just talked about, right, to me is an example, because this is an ongoing discussion that we have, right? I've been trying to tell people that in what I call it the 4 tenets of Jeet Kune Do. Research your own experience, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, add what is specifically your own. I keep trying to tell people that add what is specifically your own does not mean accumulate.
Correct.
You see? Now, so there are things that you have experienced that you have brought into your approach to what you teach, how you train. That is adding what is specifically your own. But they stubbornly adhere to this idea that, oh, no. He added he added to Jeet Kune Do, he added Savat, he added this. I'm like, no, you don't. They don't get it.
No,
right?
it's stripping down. So if we looked at, I'll take some of the example. Actually, if you look on the YouTube channel, you see 2 Ninja and Anna. You'll see those 2. One is a powerful. Anna is very powerful. She's got a strength that people will be like, damn. Looking at her until she grabs you or you grab her, you don't realize all of that is there. And it's like you're not just feeling her arms at that moment. Her whole body is right there. It's really cool in how her body is adapting to the training. Ninja, on the other hand, looks thin as a wisp, moves with a grace and fluidity. You'll see her in some of our what I call the hatchet kicks, which are somewhat like a Savat kick and a Muay Thai kick combined. But she'll do that with a finesse that, will land that kick right here before you can cover. So that one's Anna. That one's Anna. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So she's my longest student right now. And she's been through some heavy stuff. So that woman right there has been under, a 7 foot tall, 300-pound guy, all the way down to 98-pound guys. So she has walked the walk and She can talk the talk, but she's just very quiet and doesn't say anything.
Okay.
So
and is that Ninja?
nope, nope,
No.
that one's not. That one is Anna as well.
Oh, that's her?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you'll see there's
completely different.
Yeah, there's different times in training, because those we're setting up prior to like our trips for Germany. So when we start ramping up because when we were first going out there, we were testing Marco Hildebrand and to become an instructor out there and the representative for Core JKD in Europe. And so we had to build up our conditioning, because we didn't. My biggest thing is, if I can't do it, I don't have anything to inspire anyone by. So I have to be able to do something to showcase that. And so that they can look at it and say, oh, okay, so this is how it's supposed to be done. Or, okay, wow, that's really the thing that we have to elevate ourselves to. So we do this ramp up period, because a seminar, how we do it is, and there are other people who do that as well, we're really heavily involved in the conditioning with the students. We're heavily involved in sparring, because I'll work and spar with 7 or 8 of them at a time, one after the other, that type of thing. So I have to have this elevated conditioning to such and such a level, which changes as we get older, of course, as you probably know. But we do our best up until that level. Yeah. And so when we went over there to train them, they weren't expecting the type of conditioning that we were putting them through. So we did 8 days straight of training, and most of that was conditioning training. And then in the afternoon would be his testing. So he would test after being blasted with conditioning that they had never done to that level before. And they came through, and it was astonishing. Their work ethic, it didn't matter if they were about to throw up, they would breathe it off, they'd come back to it and they would just go. Not one complaint, not one, oh, I need to take a break now, I need to do whatever else. It was something to be said about that group. it inspired me all the way around. Yeah. And it's like, well, I can't slack off in training. If I'm going to train, I'm going to train in a way that, if I'm there in the drill, if I'm just instructing, that's one thing. But if I'm personally going in and doing my training, it's 100% or don't train. It's 100% or nothing. You get out of there or get on the pads, or get against the person. And injuries, of course, and everything else later on lets you know what you have to minimize. But when you see her body and then you see Ninja's body, Ninja's very thin, but she has this precision of striking. She has this tenacity. Yeah. The other day we were doing shoulder shots. We were actually doing just some clinch range work, and this was at one of the parks. And she got in, and after a while I let people ramp it up, and I just go to the level they want to ramp it up at. But we were going over tables and everything, and also all of a sudden she's shoulder shots, boom, boom, right into my face and stuff like that. So I'm working my cover, takes me down to the ground, and this is on sand. We rolled off the concrete, we're on sand and on the gravel at that point. And so we quickly look the environment beforehand. We make sure that we don't have glass that we're going to land on or things like that. So we always have this situational awareness, even during, so that we're not going to slam our person against, a pole or against the concrete block or something, or a corner of something. So that also, training in that environment helps you become aware of what's around you, so that you can see opportunities as well as dangers, which a lot of people, when they fight, they are so tunnel vision. There you go. That's Ninja.
That's her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, I didn't want to get in trouble when Anna and she see it and they go, well, you never showed a picture of me. I mean, what is up with that guy?
No, they're perfectly happy to be in the background behind camera.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You guys always have at least one camera, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of that is because when I regret back in the day, and it was technology driven basically,
Yeah.
not having had the equipment, because there were so many sparring, fighting sessions, so many things that I could share with people now that would blow them away. And it's like, and we didn't get it on video because at that time it was a nascent technology. I mean, the video I did shoot when I was able to do it was 720p. I mean, not even 20p, it was 720i interframe. It was terrible. I mean, it was just a grainy, tiny picture. So you're looking at 1020 right now, 1920 by 1080 for standard HD video. But back then it was 720, if that. I mean, 720 by 480.
Yeah.
480 was the big number. I mean, for the lowest size. And so, and we didn't always have that. It was a matter of, boy, you got to put the tape in, you got to do all the stuff. There was so much more prep. Right now, we can get the camera on the iPhone, pull that right out, or I use my Blackmagic camera because I'll usually pull that out because I'll do training videos for my Patreon members as well as the cjkdmember.com people and the YouTube channel. So, because I know a lot of people around the world, which I'm just astounded by, watch our channel, and it's pretty freaking cool.
No, that's what I was referring to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I look at actually, so two things I just thought of.
Mm-hmm.
On the website, it says that you have over 30,000 hours of training or whatever.
Yeah.
How many hours of video do you think you've shot?
I'll put it this way. I've got on my backup, because I've got offline backup, I've got 52 terabytes of data backed up. The majority of that is video. I will come home weekly. Weekly, it's about 100 to 150 gigabytes of video minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is, I can only put so much out, you know, because of time on YouTube, but I've got enough to last years. And it's just a matter of getting it, because there's just so much stuff we film. I just don't have the time to get it all out. But I am recording this stuff because, like I said, back in the day, we didn't have that at the time. And it's like, oh, if I wish we would have seen, you know, more of this and shown more of that, because we did this, and I wouldn't have to go and break my body now to show it, you know, because I broke it back then. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, my techie brother up in New York would be very proud of you, because he's always telling me, Dwight, make sure you got all your stuff backed up, you know, offline and what have you.
Oh, that's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a hard lesson to learn.
It is. I had this one document I had been working on for 5 years on an external hard drive. I think I lost you.
I'm losing you here.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're back.
Okay. Yeah. Now I was telling you, I had this one document I'd been working on for over 5 years, and it was on an external hard drive that fell off the table. Yeah.
Wasn't a flash drive, it was a hard drive, a spinning computer drive.
Yep. So that was pretty much the end of that.
Yeah, wow.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because Dave Hatch from Michigan just came on and just said that you're a very detailed instructor. And now Dave is also, I mean, he's one of the great minds in the Inosano lineage. The organizational structure, because to me, when I see you guys on video, it all looks effortless. It looks, I don't want to say unplanned, but it definitely doesn't look prearranged, right? Which means that you're very good at what you do, because you make it seem effortless, right? But there's no way that you just go, what do I feel like doing today? There's structure. This is structure of non-structure.
my students right now, there's probably a couple watching, they'll say, no, he will literally come out and he'll say, because you'll see him working in his head, and he'll go, okay, this is what we're going to do today. And right there on the spot, because I'll have gotten a question from a commenter or something like that on YouTube or somewhere else. And it's in that moment, because of lighting, because of a helicopter coming over or not, things like that. I can then decide in that moment what I can actually showcase or do. Or it might be something that I'll remember somebody had asked from a previous time based on another video we did show.
Yeah.
And it'll come to me and then I'll say, okay, let's do this. Now, some of the other stuff, I've got a series on the realities of fighting, and I've written out 3 of those. So those are done. It's a talking head type thing. So I had to write it all out. I had to make sure that all of it was scripted, because it's a lot of detailed information that I want to give to people regarding what real fights are about, how an individual actually goes into it, what the environmental factors are, how they can actually find themselves in that position. How is it messy? What are the legalities of it? What are law enforcement and civilian legalities later? What are the things that they need to address? So I have an entire series. I put one of them up right now. So those type will be scripted, and those will be thought out ahead. A lot of the other things, when I do my training videos for sale, I definitely make sure that I have a key points, and I'll go through just headers. And I've got a lot up here, so I can pretty much, and it is fairly well organized. I have I used to have a photographic memory that was really heavy back in high school. It has become more sensorially photographic, so it's changed slightly, but I can recall a lot of that detail when necessary, which is how it comes out in my novels and things. But I'll be able to also look at people when they're training, and I'll immediately, and you probably know this as well, you'll feel what they're doing as you're watching it. You'll get this sense of where you are, and your body will start moving, because you may be off to the side watching, but it's like you're so immersed in what you're seeing, you're sympathetically responding to it with your muscles. You're moving a little bit. I watched Eric Paulson do this once at a seminar, and he was just watching somebody else do it, and his entire head and everything else gets into it. So I know it's something that we tend to do as martial artists and as instructors, is we so immerse ourselves in what's going there. There is no ego at that point. We're egoless. We are completely there for the student. We're completely there for solving the problem. Yeah. And so yeah, that's
you just made me think of something. During the pandemic, have you had to do Zoom stuff?
There was a period of adjustment where it was trying to figure out how best could I do this with students. And so I kept in contact with some of the other people. I would talk to other students and things like that. There was there was a couple of people that I was training with all the time, because we're always in proximity to each other. There was a period where we'd go 2 weeks or whatever to make sure that we were okay, but limited exposure.
I hate to interrupt you. I like that you didn't say in close proximity. When people say that, it drives me crazy. What other kind of proximity is there but close?
Yeah, right. Well, everything's relative. I mean, we're proximity to, Saturn, or it depends on just how you want to bring it in. But yeah, it caused a lot. I didn't stop training. I reduced my wider. So a lot of my other private students, because I didn't have enough knowledge of what they were doing in their lives, who they came in contact with. And I do train someone who is, I put her through conditioning, and she's 75 years old right now. So ours is a distance training and teaching. And but it's with masks. It's with, being in the same room, but, we're minimum of 10 feet away, that sort of thing. But she doesn't go anywhere else either. And so I have a very limited exposure to who I'm exposing myself to as far as the people that I interact with, and I know who they are exposing themselves to. So there was a lot of that in the early days, was just kind of minimalizing and just, sorting everything out, trying to figure out what would be the best way to approach this. And I didn't think that I could teach well enough on the platforms that we have, with bandwidth issues, that I could produce enough of a quality product. And I could be wrong. Other people might look at it and say, hey, just put this out, we'll be fine with it. But I didn't think I could meet that level of expectation in my own head. So, and that may change in the future, but right now the world is starting to get back to interacting more.
So you guys are back outdoors now, and
yeah. So a lot of ours was the stick training. So you'll see a lot of the stuff that we do. We're still training some of the base concepts that I relate the stick to the knife to the fist and that sort of thing. And the stick training allowed us to keep more of a distance in the earlier times. And then because we basically live together, we can train more. So there's a lot more that we can do physically now, that a lot of more of the data has come through as to what's going on with the world in this particular pandemic. So
I'm trying to find your Amazon book, but I can't. But I mentioned that we should talk about that too, because that is something that aspect of your life, I was completely unaware of that.
Let me see if I can pull it up here for you. Yeah, in fact, you can go to erickane.com, ERICCANE.com, and that'll get you right there.
And this is, so this one that you're working on right now is book number what?
This is actually probably book number probably 13. So, and I'm just starting to put them out. So people have been after me for a long time. Says, you've written all these novels, you've written all these short stories. Why aren't you putting them out? It's like, because marketing is another whole job. And if I'm marketing, I'm not writing. If that sort of thing. So it's one of those. I've got a vampire series up there on Amazon too. Let's see if I can pull that up. I'll give you send you a link here somehow. Let's
see. Okay. Well, I pulled this.
Yeah. If you
and this is what. This is what I was telling you. This is what I love about Be Live. That it allows me to do this.
Yep.
You're right, and none of the other platforms do it this way.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So that's pretty cool. Why, that's why I feel like I'm on TV. Right? And since I consider myself the world's premier JKD journalist, right?
You are. So who else would take that from you? No one. Right? They'd have to fight you for it, and you'd kick their ass. So
this is the most this is the most recent one then?
This is the most recent that I put out, correct. Yeah. I've written quite a few other ones. Okay. So but that's the most recent that I published. So we'll put it that way. Okay. And I do.
So they can find that on Amazon, and they could go to erickane.com.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, I wrote a JKD business manual about 10 years ago. I never did anything with
it. see, that's the thing,
I never did anything with it. But
I've been a really great editor, so that's one thing, because I wanted the book to be as a published book, like I do pretty much everything that I can. I wanted to be in the league of any published book, so I wanted all the grammar. I wanted all the punctuation. I wanted the, thematic style. I wanted everything to be exactly as the vision, but also correct and detailed and efficient in speech in my language. And that's just a process of writing so many things since middle school. So
so again, this takes me back to, because I think that sometimes people have the image of the martial arts instructor, that's it.
Yeah,
that's all that person is. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like if you don't open a school, if you don't, and that's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a fact.
But still, again, I'm amazed and impressed by you as the guy who was teaching, because it says on the website within a year.
Yeah.
At Sifu Lewis's place, you were on the teaching staff.
Right.
So again, dumb question, but tell us about the transformation from that, right, to being Eric Kane as well.
Well, see,
it's intriguing as heck to me. It really is.
Well, boy, yeah, how is that transition? Well, so I was always a heavy reader. So I've got dyslexia. So I have to be, there are certain authors that are really difficult to read, Faulkner versus Hemingway, that sort of thing. Okay. But I have a specific, how do I say, funnel, or a specific type of language that I adhere to, which is more to the point. Like I said, Hemingway. I mean, there are people who, Peter David, and there's other writers who are just like excellent at what they do, but they're so easy to read because they don't fill it. I mean, if you've read Faulkner, if you've read some of these other earlier writers like that, where he had a 1,200 word sentence, he had stretched the boundaries of people's patience to break up the writing. Things like that was a filter. Yeah. Things like that were a filter to who developed into Eric Kane. So I've got the Ming aspect. So he's the Core JKD entity. The Eric Kane is the more literal and literary entity. And so in order to separate those two, I had to make a decision at one point that I actually had to separate them, keep them separate. Because you'll get people who are thinking, as you know, that if you're just martial arts, you're just a lunkhead who is aggressive and has no depth and is only interested in fighting and only interested in, and has a limited intellect. I did not want to associate, or at least to certain individuals or future potentials for employment, or at least sales, to say, oh yeah, well, this martial artist is writing these novels. And it's like, no, Eric Kane stands well on his own as a fully developed writer from very long time ago. And so he's a literary element that I can easily fit into, because that's my morning persona. That's the one that at 4 a.m., I go into my writing phase, and so, and then it's later on, it's the martial arts. But the same, so the aspect of taking from where I was as a martial artist, it just turns out that martial artist, Ming, can also communicate well with writing, and he communicates well in his martial art with it.
Yeah. So funnily enough, right? Mm-hmm. So you just talked about the 1,200 word sentence. You have a 30-word sentence in a prominent spot on your website. Mm-hmm. I shall read it to you.
Okay.
It says, It says, Core Jeet Kune Do is an advanced training methodology for self-defense in all the ranges against single and multiple opponents with or without weapons in a variety of environments.
Yep. To the point. See?
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
What other way is there to explain it?
Yep. Exactly.
That covers everything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no embellishment. There's no, it doesn't need to say, you know, superior or, you know, of this, you know, universe or, you know, it's just efficient to the point.
Yeah. And so I read that and I go, oh, I have to ask him where he went to school, right? Because I can read that and I can tell that is precise language.
Yeah.
That is a result of accurate thinking translated into accurate speaking.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I recognize it. And I'm like, okay, Dwight, make sure you ask him where he went to school. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
it. It was there's another thing, like I said, being an autodidact, I get intensely focused. When I want to learn something, I learn everything about it. There is nothing I don't uncover, and then I learn the essence of it, so that I can easily communicate that if somebody asks. I was a chauffeur for an elderly woman at one point, and I'm a poet also. I've written probably close to 1,400 poems. So I'm also, that's another aspect of the Eric Kane persona. But she was she taught at university. She also toured the country. She gave speeches and so forth on poetry. She had several books of poetry on her own. And so we started talking, and because I was just driving her from one location to the other, and found out that I wrote poetry. And so she wanted to see it and so forth. Well, she became a mentor in those little trips. And then eventually through writing, we'd write back, snail mail back in the old day. And she eventually came at one point, because she would challenge me. She said, well, do it this way. Try this and try that. She would never directly tell me how to do something, but she would challenge me. And then I would rise to the challenge. And then she sent a letter to me saying, I had to send this to you before the Christmas season. It says, you are my most promising student. You went from kindergarten to college graduate in the fastest time of anybody. She says, you are my miracle. She says, go to magazines, go to newspapers, go to whatever. And that's one of those things where if you have somebody that can just challenge you and challenge you in the right paths, you will develop properly into the best expression of yourself, which is what I try to do to the students who come to me for training. But you don't have to have anything other than somebody who can spark that in you. And if they already have this world experience and they already have this deep education, and they can they're not trying to make you into them. They're trying to make you into the best version of you. And if they just know how to challenge you properly, you'll rise to that. So, I've got college grad on my, without having to go to college, and this is from somebody in that field. So it's the autodidact in me. It's the wanting to I'm deeply curious, and then I pursue it. I pursue that. So.
Okay. I have a one-word question for you. Screenplays.
Yeah. I have some screenplays as well. Yeah. So and this was before I met my editor now. So I had put through a competition. It was an international competition for one of my stories. I wrote it as a screenplay first. And I decided, what the heck, I'll put it in there. Well, I beat out 1,000 other contestants to go into semifinals, but it was because I wasn't, the one comment that the judge said, this reads like a movie. He says it is so visual. He says, but then it was the language. I didn't have the, it wasn't up to my professional standards that I have now. And that was through meeting my editor, Lila Haggard. So she helped refine my expression to where I am now by just pointing out, okay, this is unneeded here. This is unneeded there. This is wrong. This is, not by saying do it this way.
Yeah.
Because I would rail against anybody who says do it this way. I'm doing it my way.
Right.
And what she discovered early on, and she said, okay, well, if this is just wrong to have it here, this is a right way to speak it, or you can do it this way or that way. And then I would just rewrite it in my own form, but I would do it with accurate. But back then I didn't have the presentation skills in a screenplay to make it past semifinals. But it was like, at that time, it was like, oh, I can do this. And this was with an error-filled document that got past 1,000 other people. And it was like pretty cool. Wow. So I've got some other screenplays that I am working on, and those are in the works.
And that's what you work on, because we started this at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
You'd been up for 6 hours prior to that.
Yeah, easily.
So that's what.
The last few days I've been getting up at 2:37 and 3, and so it really depends on when my brain wants to get to work.
Yeah. You'd be a good person to answer this question. If you do wake up earlier than you intend to, should you go back to sleep, or should you just get up and start doing stuff?
It depends on what I've done before. The only time where I would start doing something is I'm so freshly awake and I haven't trained prior to, if the previous day I did some heavy training, I know that I physically have to recuperate the rest for my body to heal from the damage that it took. So then I will force myself to lay there. I'll put on a Star Trek episode or something and just go to sleep to that. And I will eventually fall asleep. But if I didn't do anything physically, I wasn't physically exhausted and needing repair for that. And if it's if I get 5 hours, maybe of sleep, then I'll wake up and I'll say, okay, fine, we'll just start, we'll go, and then I'll just take a nap later on, in the day. Yeah.
I'm gonna, this is 100% unfair to you, because it's actually an exercise that you're supposed to take some time with, but you don't get that opportunity. So here's what you got to do. I want you to give me the 3 top adjectives you would use to describe your social self.
Well, anybody who knows me, one of my students said it best, and said it, you are the antithesis of the social gadfly. So I am quiet, reserved, just observant. I'm very to outward appearances generally more of a shy person.
Right. Okay. So quiet, reserved, observant. All right. Now, this is the more difficult one. 3 adjectives you would use to describe your personal self, that you would use to describe yourself to yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see here. Curious, determined.
I was going to say relentless, but yeah.
Yeah. Persistent. Yeah.
Because one more.
Creative. Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm looking at the. I'm looking at the. As a matter of fact, let me just put it up so people can see what we're talking about. Right. So. Relentlessness. Yeah. We understand. Base. Is that what you were talking about? You mentioned that with regard to your students. So people observe your students and they're like, right?
Yeah, so that's the base itself is when, so you have views, and there's deeper levels of it where it's your emotional base as well as your ability to control physical stresses, the sensory awareness.
Okay, can I just say that I love
Yeah.
you? I think you're like the greatest guy. I swear. You no, seriously.
I am honored. Thank you, sir.
You are an example. What I've said this to people before. Ultimately, Jeet Kune Do is something you become.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
You are.
Yeah.
Is okay, right? So just in case anybody thinks there's something funny going on here.
I appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
so okay,
That base.
finish up the symbol and we'll close
Sure.
this up.
Sure. That base itself is, like I said, you have to have this this calm. So this calm comes to you from this all the data points that you get sensorily through all of your senses, and then you have your emotional self. How am I rising to what my senses are stimulating? Do I have control of that? Is that base already assuaged? Can I manipulate that? Can I navigate that? Can I control it enough to then work with expressing myself? Because now I have to express, and that may be according to the stimulus of the environment. So it might be a threat situation and so forth. We'll go with that. First thing first is now underneath that, your emotional base, your how you can well handle your insides, but also the surface that you're on, how your body moves against it. If you're on sand, if you're on a leaf-covered hill, if you are on concrete, if you are on the edge of a wall, if you are on wet stone, all of these things matter. And then it's you moving on that. How well can you move on that? How fast can you move? What are your quick changes in that? How does that affect your ability to stand up or your ability to move through opportunity? Then comes resistance. So now you have somebody, either a threat resistance to where you have to now move quickly and evade or engage. And then it's when you do engage, you do have this contact. Are you overwhelmed? Are you able to read through touch their base, how unstable they are on that surface? What are the subtleties that you can pick up? And then through minute changes in your structure, take them off base or capitalize on an imbalance that they didn't even know they had. And that's through a lot of the Wing Chun stuff. That's why a lot of my people love the Wing Chun aspects. You'll get that through that feeling, but we take it to another level. So that base is then impacting you. Now, when you make contact with somebody, you have another base, because now, as I tell people, you can have an adult man, burly, tattoos and whatever else, get slapped in the face hard, and you'll see tears come to his eyes, because that's the childhood experience rising to the fore in the second you are slapped. If you don't have this experience of being able to disassociate from your emotional states that were unresolved from childhood on up, then those will come to bother you in that instant when you may not need that bothering you. And you'll see that. And so you have to, and that's through stimulus, and that's through, getting exposure to those hits and slaps and things like that, where it's just, it's my day job. It's what I do next. Here we go next. So that is your base strong against that. Are you susceptible to all those little influences that could damage you in that regard or prevent opportunity?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Cover?
Cover is cover is your ability to perceive threats. So we use a lot of periphery training. So when we have a threat incoming to us, are we moving properly? So part of cover is our movement either away or into the threat. to minimize it and to deflect it or completely evade it. So part of cover is our movement, how we can orient to the threat, how we can evade the threat by movement. Then it's the first cover that's already up there, double arm block, comb cover, things like that, that if, I call it the old shit cover, it's like, boom, you just put it up there because you've got, it was by surprise and you have to deal with it in that moment. And it has to be a solid structure that can withstand tie kicks. It's got to be a solid structure that will keep your head in the game. Because a lot of people think cover is just putting your hands up. So if I'm going like this, I can't get this on camera, but they think that this is cover. And it's like, that is so not cover, man. You got to stop this free floating object from free floating. It has to be part of your body. So cover means that in those surprise moments, you can enact this as a baseline defense anytime you get a peripheral indication that you need to put it in play, that you aren't so ego motivated that I don't need cover, I'm going to keep my hands out here, I'm going to train whatever and try to, scare them to death with my presence. Instead, you immediately go to cover and then bam, bam, right to the next instant of action that is caused by where you have to go for opportunities. So when that cover comes into play, then your brain is safe. You're conscious. You're able to think and connect to the rest of your body. If you've been hit before, and I'm sure you have, when you get that bell rung just enough, your bell is rung and you're goofy already. You may give all these outward appearances, I'm functional, whatever else, but you will know that if that punch comes at you again, you will block it after it has hit your face and is on the way back because you've got that disconnect already. And you have to have experienced that to know what that's like. And if you don't get to that level, it's going to be a real surprise and a real fight. So you have to make sure that the brain is not at that level where all of a sudden you are disengaged from the now awareness and the now activity that you have to have in order to be able to pursue opportunity in the moment. So that's cover. Yeah. Okay.
Break down mobility and awareness for us, and then I'm going to let you go.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Mobility is the ability to be mobile against any opponent in any type of environment. So if you have two people on top of you physically trying to hold you down, you have to be mobile in that. How do you do that? Well, there are ways, we train it, we teach it, but it's also, if you haven't actually done that from people who are trained to hold you down, there's a big difference, because you can get people putting you down, but if they are trained to immobilize you, big difference. And then you have to be able to find mobility in that. Not only in that, but if somebody presents a weapon to you, they pull out a knife, they pull out, stick, whatever it could be, karambit. Where is my mobility in this? Can I adapt quick enough to the sensory information in the moment, at the moment it is occurring or prior to, that will get me either engaged and minimizing or, taking out the airway, breathing, circulation, that sort of thing, or evading and running? Do I have enough awareness of my environment? And that's where the awareness comes in, right, to supplement my mobility. Do I have enough awareness of my opponent just through peripheral information, but also opponents on the fringe who might be coming to the aid of that person, or who might be through just picking up auditorily, coming up behind me, because a lot of people get clocked, from behind by their buddies. This one in front of you is setting up the fight, the one behind you comes and knocks you out, that sort of thing. So where am I in my environment? If I step into a place, am I aware of what's behind me, what's to the side of me? Am I aware of my egress access? Am I aware of how quickly I can move over certain environments versus what the opponent is presenting to me? That sort of thing. Yeah.
I just thought, if you ever want to go through a name change, which you shouldn't, Core JKD is an excellent name, keep the C, just call it cerebral. JKD.
There is a depth to it. There is a depth to it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Ming, this has been fantastic, man.
Yeah.
I should have done this a long time ago.
Oh, no problem. You're a busy man.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't be too busy for something like this.
Oh,
I really think when people watch this, everybody's JKD level will be elevated.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Seriously, right? All right, man. Go enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Right.
You too.
Say
Thank
hello.
you for having me.
Say hello to all those great people I see on your videos.
I
Say hello to
will.
all
I
of them
will.
for me, man.
Definitely.
Fantastic group you got there.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff you're doing up there in Tampa.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
All
Take care,
right.
man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That was, we never even got around to doing an introduction. That was Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode number 143 with Shaun, Ming, Rudie of Core JKD up north of me in Tampa. So you guys feel free to share, like, and comment, ask questions. I'll ask Ming to take a look at the comments and see if there's anything that needs answering. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. I love jeetkunዶ.com. Quick Skill Series Volume 1 is still available. Coming up next time, let's see, 18. September 18th, Jeet Kune Do Dialogues with episode 144 with Paul Johnson of Real Jeet Kune Do. I don't remember if we're doing it at 6 p.m. my time, which is 11 p.m. his time. We may be starting earlier, but I forget now. But in any case, it'll be with Paul Johnson of the UK, out of the UK, of Real Jeet Kune Do. So I'll see some of you next Wednesday for the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast, or some of you I'll see next Friday for another episode of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. Guys, enjoy your weekend. Hope everything's normalizing in your part of the world. Take care now. Talk soon.
Core JKD's version of Wing Chun is called Rebel Wing Chun, or RWC for short. There are distinct differences in our liveness, flow pathways, and realism compared to many of traditional Wing Chun's functionality versus all types of attackers, even those on the ground. Core JKD embodies all ranges, and the unique creating individual surviving against resisting attackers. Our Wing Chun functionality is present in all ranges, especially where there is physical contact. This includes on the ground. Our highest goal is the discovery of truths that whittle away at our ignorance. We also work hard at achieving one's best expression in any particular moment or in life in general. With regards to combat, it is about optimizing our physical capabilities, our visual, tactile, and auditory sensitivity, and our mental fortitude and discipline to pursue our goals through adversity. We are not bound to political systems or traditional ideologies that inhibit the creating individual, but rather act as a process of discovery and free expression that becomes a net positive for you in your own life and for those with whom you come in contact. Put simply, Core JKD isn't about Core JKD. It's about you, about optimizing to your best expression and use of your body and mind, regardless of the cards you were dealt in this life. Rebel Wing Chun extends this functionality past the traditional base so that you can actually use Wing Chun principles against real resisting attackers in all the ranges, in many different environments. It's fast, it's efficient, it adapts in the moment to serve you, not the other way around. Soon to come are Rebel Wing Chun Volumes 4, 5, and 6. Before this will premiere Rebel Wing Chun Trapping Volume 1, This is a detailed series on the techniques of trapping on the high and low line. It is extensive and covers entries, interceptions, trapping versus boxing combinations, the use of elbow, headbutts, sensitive target striking, and much, much more. Those who pre-order it will receive it at half the price as a thank you for being early adopters. Thank you for watching, and my best to you in your training.